So, when you were, sorry, I don't mean to go ahead and just jump right in.
The same way, so.
When you were first diagnosed, how did your parents take that? How did they handle it?
um, I was a baby, so I don't really remember exactly how,
Hmm.
but from what they've told me, it was really stressful and, it was pretty hard to deal with, but they wanted to make sure that I had the best of everything, the best teachers, the best doctors, and they really wanted to provide me the best services that I could get no matter what. So that was really their main goal. But the way that my family is, we push through whatever has faced us. So,
And they've obviously, just listening to you, seem to have been very supportive of you over the years.
oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it's definitely been stressful. I'm not gonna lie,
Yeah.
but yeah, they've definitely been the best parents any kid could ask for. Be a BCFS or not.
Yeah.
So.
And how did you manage your VCFS in school? What was the hardest part?
The hardest part was probably sitting in my classrooms and knowing that I learned different from everybody else, and always being in the room that had the in-class support teacher and the other kids being like, oh, I'm in this slow class, and because I was in it, I knew I was part of that. So that was a little bit hard to deal with, but now, trying to get into the education world as an adult, it's so common now that I'm like, why couldn't I have been born now?
Sure. Yeah.
Because all the kids just treat it as, just any other thing. They don't even think anything of it. But back then, it wasn't as popular as it is now. So it's like we had to go through the burdens of all the harder parts of it. So, but
And does it get in the way of you making friends, or is making friends for you easy or difficult?
I would say it would be about half and half. When I was younger, in first grade, I was the smallest kid in class. I was always the one that was getting picked up,
Me
and
too.
yeah. My mom actually had to tell my teacher, like, don't, like, tell the kids don't pick me up because I was so tiny. I was 20 pounds in first grade. So
Wow.
yeah, I had to take growth hormone from first grade until I was about eighth grade, I think.
Hmm.
And up until I started doing sports and everything. But making friends, I made sure that I just lived life as normally as possible. I had my best friend since third grade. We met on the playground, and she's been there for me no matter what. So I have a handful of friends. I don't have a lot, but it's more quality than quantity.
And how about bullying? Do you ever get bullied? Is there any particular incident that you remember particularly well?
Yeah, actually, I used to be friends with this girl in I think it was like fourth or fifth grade. And then, how kids are, popularity gets in the way and they
Yep.
stop talking to you and, whatever. So when I got to high school, I think it was I was a freshman and my sister was a senior. And this girl just would not leave me alone in class. She would make sure that my life was, miserable, at least during that period of the day.
Yep.
And there was one day where my sister gathered up a couple of her friends and kind of crowded around her, like, while she walked in the room before the period began. And she kind of got the hint to be like, stay away from my sister. So, and she never bothered me again.
Well, at least you got your sister.
Yep.
How has she? She's obviously seems like she's been on your side most of the time.
Yeah. Yep, definitely. So is my brother. They're both older. They're both very wise, and they want nothing but the best for me and to make sure that I'm happy and making sure that I'm thinking through my decisions and everything. They're very supportive. I'm very lucky to have a family like I do.
And are you employed or no?
Yep, I work at Applebee's, the chain restaurant.
Yeah. How does your VCFS affect your work life or no?
It does and it doesn't. I try and make sure that my employers know what my deal is, so they know that if I'm getting stressed out, they can tell when I am, so they could just jump in, not make a big deal of it, and
Sure.
just help me out.
Yeah.
They always tell me to ask questions before I do anything, so I don't screw anything up. They make it very comfortable for me there. Currently, where I'm now, I didn't really tell my managers that I have it, but the one manager that helped me get the job, he knows I have it. So at least, the other night it was hectic at work, and he just jumped right in, and I just followed his lead, and we got through it. So
Good. Now, if you don't mind me asking, are you seeing anybody, or I mean, does your VCFS affect your love life and so forth?
In the beginning it did, and then I was a late bloomer, so I didn't want to get into love and everything until after high school, because I know for the most part that never lasts. So I try to stay away from it. And then I was just recently in a relationship for about a year and a half, and he loved me, he supported me, loved me for who I was. Communication was the biggest issue.
Yeah, sure.
Out of anything else. So, I have a habit of telling people that I understand things when really I don't, because I don't want to see them, seeing me struggle. Like, only a handful of people really know that, firsthand. And it took me about a year and a half to pull that wall down and tell him, that's what was going on in my head. And he got hurt by it, but I was like, we all hide something from someone, hide the worst parts of ourselves. Yeah. And that was the biggest issue. And, we had fights and had fights and had fights. It was the same fights all the time. Yeah. And he was like, well, why does it keep happening? You said you were going to follow through and you're not. And we learn by repetition. So eventually I'll get it. But for right now, he got tired and frustrated, and he ended up breaking up with me right before the holidays, so it's been a little hard, but again, through it.
Well, Perry and I, when we first got together, actually we didn't fight at all, and then it was really weird because then when we got married, the first few months we just did nothing but constantly fight. And, we were starting to doubt ourselves as maybe we rushed into it, and, and now they say, if you will, the first trimester of marriage is the hardest, because that's when you really discover who, you are and your partner is. And now, we just do... I found this cat of this tiny dog, sleeping right next to this cat, and his arm over the cat, and I just put on Facebook, if you're wondering what Perry and I are doing when we're not working, this is what it is. So, and she loves me exactly for who I am, and we dated for about 3 years, so she knew what she was getting into, and, I couldn't be more lucky. And so I just say, if I can do it, anybody can do it.
Yeah.
But
I was upfront with him right from the very beginning. I'm very open about it. I'd rather tell people than to have that burn in the back of my head. They don't know, they don't know, they don't know.
Yeah.
Just get it over with, tell them, and, so it's out in the open. And he still takes me for who I am. He knew what he was getting into. Yeah. It took us about a month and a half to get serious and to make it official. And it wasn't until when I was starting to look for jobs, and, part of my VCFS is obsessing over one idea and never letting it go. Like, I keep talking about, I want a full-time job, I want a full-time job with benefits. That was the only thing I thought about, and I've been trying to get into the education role, like I said before, as a paraprofessional, trying to help the kids with their own learning disabilities and helping them get through it, and that was my goal. And he was worried that I was limiting myself. He wanted me to go further, but I'm like, I have limitations. Like, you can't. I tried taking the praxis, the educational exam to get into education programs in college, and I was like,
It's too much.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
I took it twice, I failed it twice, I passed the writing, but the reading and math,
Yeah.
I'm always right there, but I'm never there.
Yeah.
And that's what I think that was the hardest part for him, was that he was trying to push me into doing things that I didn't have the ability to do, and he felt
Yeah.
like he was changing me. And I was like, well, you're not changing me as a person. It's
Yeah.
just you're not accepting that there are certain things I'm just not going to do
Sure.
or not going to be able to do.
Well, I would love for you to be, I don't know, I think I responded to your email that I would love for you to be like a caregiver on Friends of Quinn, where you
Mm-hmm.
just, respond to people's questions and blogs and just give them your advice.
Yep.
Because we really need that right now. And,
Yeah,
to be
sure.
honest, we don't have any when we transferred, when I went by myself when I left Health Central, we lost all of our, caregivers and experts, and unfortunately right now we only have one expert. So
Yeah.
if you are willing to do that, I would absolutely love it. And if you know anybody else who is willing to do it, please go ahead and tell them.
Yeah, sure. I would be more than happy to. And I've been living with it my whole entire life. And when I read your book, you didn't find out until you were 14.
Yeah,
And I knew right from when I was about 2 or 3, I was diagnosed, and I was about first grade when I was diagnosed with my
mm-hmm.
nonverbal learning disability. So I've lived with it throughout my whole life. So I
Yeah,
know every type of feeling, everything that you could possibly go through.
yeah,
I've been through it, and I've worked through it. I've been babysitting. I've been through every single possible situation you could think of. So I deal with stress probably a lot more than the average person, I think.
Did you have any major surgeries like heart surgery or so forth?
I had countless surgeries.
Yeah, I know all
I
about
had,
that.
yep, I had a ASD repair in my heart when I was 8 months old. Uh, one of the arteries was having the blood flow back into the stream the opposite way it should have been.
Yep.
So if I was feeding with my mom, when I was getting a bottle, I would fall asleep because I was getting so tired of eating and getting
Yeah.
the energy too, and they didn't know why I wasn't gaining any weight. So that's when they found out that I had to get the ASD repair. I still have the scar from it.
Yep.
I had, I think, about 3 or 4 times I had tubes taken in and out of my ears when I was in elementary school.
Yep.
So I know Children's Hospital of Philadelphia like the back of my hand. So
Yeah. Well,
I've
I
been there
think
countless times.
it sounds like you and I have been through a lot of the same stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
thank you very much, Katie. I really, really appreciate it.
No problem. Anytime.
All right. Take care.